We are live today for our interview series with Kirem, and I am so excited because Lori Love Jones said I needed to meet her. And we had a few minutes before we were live to talk over a few things, and I could not be more grateful for the space in which we get to have today because Lori had shared that she is working on so many incredible things and has overcome challenges. And what I know to be true is that when we see another woman experience life and be able to get through it, it gives us insight and opportunity to learn and grow as well. And also that partnership for future opportunities. If what she shares today can benefit you, that you'll have all the information to connect with her because so many times we are in a place where we are hoping and growing ourselves and we think we're alone and we're actually not. We have tools, resources, and opportunities to learn and grow. And what the Worthy Collective is meant to do is to share those resources, and those become amazing relationships and opportunities, possibly partnerships. You never know unless you ask. And what I know to be true about this beautiful soul is that she has been in the work, and it has not always been simple or with ease. And those edits she's going to share can be able to be the gift to you today for taking the time and her information so that you can connect and you can find a place that could be that wish, that hope, that prayer of where you are to have better. So, I'm excited to be able to share you with our community and so many others. So, would you mind sharing with us a little bit more about, I always say as far back as you want to share, the experiences, and then we'll, come around with some questions that can be sometimes when we're watching an interview, we're like, oh, what about this and what about that? And what we look at is the inner view and that space in which you've been. So take it away, share what you'd like to share.
Oh, Maggie, it's such an honor to be here and to share my story with you all. I really feel held in the space with you. Thank you so much. And thank you for the introduction because truly, as I know your podcast as being someone who's watched several episodes and gotten to know some of the members and featured spirits here who are amazing leaders and guides in your Worthy Collective. It's an honor to be among all of you. But truly, success sometimes is actually kind of defined or redefined based on looking at it from the bottom up, especially if you've fallen or stumbled on your path. Success is a very powerful term. And I would say that in my life, I have had a few highs and lows, and haven't we all? But certainly over the past 5 years that we have come through the pandemic, that was a huge transition point in my career path and what I thought were sort of my dreams or benchmarks of success, to be honest. And it can be very hard to accept the redirects that we receive in the world and from spirit, from God, from the universe as actually beneficial when they're happening. So I can 1,000% share from that space. And hopefully my story already, my heart already feels so expanded just in being true to that, because that has been my path and the most recent episode of it too. So I would say as far back as history wants to go, I've always been a healer. When I was in kindergarten, I was actually identified as a genius. Now, hold up. I don't want to hold up, because that was quickly proven to be not correct. And this is in the context of mathematical, traditional genius testing, which I had to do. And I have never been good at math. So feeling totally displaced in this world of there's something about her that is gifted, but not exactly testing and passing these tests successfully. What they observed about me in kindergarten was that I was very emotionally intelligent. I had empathy. I had immense empathy, not just for students and my fellow kids, but for the teachers. Yeah. And for pretty much anybody. And so it was really a different type of child's, genius. And so they couldn't test it because they didn't have the metrics to test that back then. And I still don't know if we do, but that would be kind of where I first realized I'm on the path of the healer. Like that is just who I am. So even though my path took me into initially a thought that I would be a journalist and into public relations and marketing, and then finally at my 30th or so birthday, realizing I wanted to fully embrace the healer that I was, I went to acupuncture school and became an acupuncturist, and went through 4 or 5 years of training to obtain my master's degree, and then opened my practice officially here in Nashville, Tennessee in 2014. Yeah, 2014 is when I officially started. And so I thought I was on my path. I thought that was absolutely, I just spent all this time, energy, resources, and love to put into that form of the path. And I, loved my time as an acupuncturist. Today, sitting with you, Maggie, I'm no longer practicing after all that time. And in 2020, I had to give it up. I'm a fighter. I feel like a lot of the other women and listeners of this podcast are fighters, and I didn't go down easy. It took the 5 years of 2020 to happen, and then my office having to shut down, losing my practice. I remember the nights my husband and I moved furniture out of the old office. We were under a lot of pressure from the landlords who were not, I would say, empathetic to the situation. So I really was in a heartbreak, and the rain, it was so wild how just even the weather was just this perfect, effect to my emotions. Yeah. And we had this crazy rain here in Nashville, and I was moving out bookcases and, acupuncture supplies and just putting it all in our garage. And just the feel of the actual closure of that office and closing the door and everything being out of it, it was just so overwhelming. And you kind of are in a state of denial, and disbelief that your dream is coming to an end. And I'll never forget, Maggie, that my birthday is March 11th. And on that day, I think it might have been the day that the NBA shut down because of the pandemic. I got all these emails from clients beloved clients, new clients, the whole gamut. Oh, I'm so sorry. I need to cancel my appointment. I need to pause treatment for a while. Just a birthday gift of this is just not happening anymore. And, at the time, it just felt so cruel and so heartless for what I was doing, which was bringing love and a healing touch and a healing mindset, teaching. I was teaching all kinds of Reiki and hosting circles and groups for women and vision board classes. And I was feeling like I was doing such a good thing. Why would I be punished in a way? Mm. And it took me a very long time to actually realize it wasn't punishment. It was a graduation. It was a graduation. But it even took me another year or two, because over the process of the next 2 years, I actually tried to reopen again. So I didn't take the sit still, stop message at all. I was just fighting and fighting to come back. And then that was another ending of heartbreak when I tried to reopen in a new location with a friend of mine who graciously invited me into her office. And she was a very successful, well-known, especially in the Nashville area, intuitive, psychic, teacher, trainer, just a gem of a spirit. Her name is Susie Kerwright, and she invited me into work from her office. And unexpectedly and traumatically, she died at the end of that following year. She just suddenly disappeared from our world. I mean, she just crossed over, and it was not expected at all. And so many of us were absolutely shocked. I was just a wreck. I just couldn't handle that first traumatic loss of my office, and then the second trying to get back up and here with an amazing friend, and then losing her was just a blow that I knew I had to put down the needles. Like, it was just, the universe was saying, this is not the direction that you need to be in. And the loss of somebody and grief is in itself a whole nother episode and experience versus maybe a business, but it was compounded grief that I really, really have been in for the past couple of years. I then opened a magazine called said, well, I'm going to put the needles down and pick up the pen instead. I'm going to still work for my clients. I'm still going to help everybody on their paths. And I started a magazine with a co-founder called the New Earth Almanac. And so we published, I think it was like, 14 issues, I think 14 or 15 issues. And then 5 of them were actually physically printed magazines. And so that was then where I was back to serving the community and doing what I thought was my path. Um, and it was a very beautiful, rewarding time, truly. But we weren't able to find maybe like the actual financial success that we needed to make it a viable company and operation. And so, as part of this learning about what success really is, it felt like as time went on, people were also starting to get called into different aspects of their work and gifts. So I just sort of honored the timing and the flow that we have this amazing arc. I felt like we built this virtual arc that got so many of us through the remainder of that pandemic struggle and that time. And it was this virtual place that we could come and write and share our stories together. But that it ultimately was ready to sail on its own into the sunset in its own way and timing. And so one could chalk that up as like another, oh, that didn't work out either. But it was all part of these stairs that I needed to climb in a way to reach to where I am now. And that is, I don't have to have I don't have to be in these communities in a way in order to do the work I'm called to do. So I would say, to sum all of that up, I've come to honor and allow that I can just be me. I can just do me. I don't have to have acupuncture, Chinese medicine on my door and like doing all the things. And I don't even have to have a team that I'm running in order to do me. I can just be Kirem, be that kindergarten healer that just knew what others were experiencing or feeling and trust that gift. And it's taken some time. It has truly taken some time, Maggie, to do that. But I would say that's hopefully a helpful overview of the past, especially the past 5 years. But I'm really grateful to be here and to share it from this perspective, my experience.
Oh my gosh, so beautiful. And I think what I love most is that you were willing.
Thank you. Wow. Woo, chills. We were talking about chills earlier. Thank you. That is a huge gift of words to say right now. I really appreciate that. It's meaningful and right on.
Um, what I know to be true is that knowing and doing, we all get at different stages and places. And being labeled at such a young age can be a blessing and also a challenge because you're living up to something that you're not even sure is. Because that EQ, emotional intelligent, that quotient that is becoming more prominent now, and I do believe there's some different ways that we can test it. What that was is your gift of genius.
Mm. Yes, thank you.
And I would dare say most of us don't even know that until we're older, if we even do. And it might have been that grandma or aunt or someone who came alongside in this, like, I feel a spiritual, oh my goodness, that just gave me the chills. Um, that space of seeing something and saying something.
Yeah.
Because so
Wow.
many people don't acknowledge that. And it's that intuition. I've been talking to um, our oldest a lot about it, of like, your gut is essentially your first brain. You know, people want to say it's your second brain, but it's actually your first because you have that like little stir of like something's off here, something's different. And then, doing something about it to say, whoo, hold on, let's stop for a second, or let's proceed, or let's ask, let's do something because that action is important. And that's what we learn from. And so you were faced with an enormous amount of choices, decisions, and that loss. What I've learned is grief is love with nowhere to go.
Oh, that's so beautiful. Yeah. Yeah. And it took a long time. I think for that love to reorient from the external to the internal and to recognize that I get to be in that circle of love too. And so many things changed once I finally allowed that thought to manifest and for myself to be included in that circle, because I think we are so oriented toward an external version of ourselves for validation or what we think of as success. And actually, when we orient to what's just inside and who we are, it actually gets easier and simpler. And those benchmarks are suddenly like not the thought things we used to think. So, and I will say the last year, 2024 into 2025, I was like, okay, needles down, pencils down, pens down. I just went still. I totally realized that I had to stop. And so the Psalm 46:10, be still and know that I am God, was literally my mantra in 2024. I looked into the Bible verse and realized when you read the whole psalm, it has more to do with not just being still and meditating and praying, which I did do a whole lot of, but I realized it was about putting down the weapons, stopping fighting, stopping the efforting. And we're just so trained to do that. Like we have to hustle, we have to strive. And I got a lot of fire in my astrology chart. So, you know, I go. When it's time to go, I go. I don't stop. In fact, it's like, I think I have to reach burnout sometimes as, oh, I needed a rest. I forgot. I forgot to build that in. So I would say that really pausing and stopping to orient. And it was during that year that I realized, oh, what if I just put myself in that circle of love for once versus being the space holder, the facilitator, or whatever, right? And once I put myself into that circle, Maggie, everything changed. Everything changed. Yeah. But it took a while to get me to just sit, and do that. Yeah.
Well, it was a different kind of do.
Yes, exactly.
It was a
Exactly.
do. It was absolutely a do. But so many times I think as women, we feel like that dominant, we're gonna go, we're gonna go. And then you're like, well, the over and over and over cycle is not necessarily working. So that that
Yeah.
stillness is so beautiful. And there's so much to learn from it. I remember when somebody had said, well, do you meditate? And I was like, do you know my personality? I'm in movement. I'm in motion, and that seems hard. Well,
Yeah.
that in which is hard actually becomes simple because we choose. So I think that that's such a great space and the rawness and realness of your, you know, activity, and then the blessing of Susie, and also that side that no one would expect, and that percentage in which we can turn that to us. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like that loss and that grief. Um, because I share this all the time, and I feel like I remember when I was given this. So I'll let you know. Anyone who's watching this is watching the number. I do share this often because it's so beautiful, and it's that space is there's three rules in the game of life. So, can you change the past?
No, you cannot change the past.
And that becomes an argument sometimes with people. They're like, "What? That's not fair." Didn't say it was fair or not fair. It is what it is because I do not carry or possess a magic wand to go back. No one does. And so the past is perfect. Even though it was challenging and you would have chosen something else, it is perfect. So number one, past is perfect because it happened for us, not to us, but for us. Two, people are doing the best they can with the tools and resources they think they have access to. And the
Yes.
third one was that prickly, I call it prickly, kind of like a cactus. It's beautiful, but not meant to be touched. Um, and that is we must take personal responsibility. And that's what you did.
Absolutely.
You kept
Yeah.
you kept pivoting. You're like, how about this? How about this? How about this? You're willing. That willingness is so beautiful because it gives and lends to all these different places where now here you are with such a valuable amount of skill and exploration and willingness that you can support so many more people because if you didn't have the adversity, you can't talk to it.
Yes, that's so true. Absolutely true.
Not
Yes.
that you really wanted it, not you were like,
Yeah.
yay, this is fantastic. No, it's not how it works. It's like, oh, super. Which tool will we use today? Which tool are we
Exactly.
going to pull out? And we might be spending a little more time in that tool and like, oh, okay, how's this going to play out? So I
Yes.
love that you have been willing. That is, yes, that is the key. And that will reach and teach others so much more from that experience. So, what would you say is the most important lesson that you've learned on this journey to success in it, either life or business or both that you wish more women knew?
Sure. I kind of started to mention this a little bit about flipping the definition of success from external to internal. That has been my biggest, I guess, aha moment with success. And that really happened over this period of time. Um, to be honest, Maggie, I felt like I had made it, even in all of these, what we would think of as failures or things not working out. The irony of it all is during that year of stillness, I realized I had made it when I no longer needed to set an alarm in the morning. I was like, this is heaven. Like, I don't have some sort of external thing that I have to run and do. I am doing life my way and doing the work I'm doing, which I will mention. I don't know. I think I got really into the story of the past 5 years. I apologize. I didn't really clarify the work I'm doing now, but the work I'm doing now enables me to flow with the right timing for being in service, not just on a dictated scheduled path, career, specific to like a profession that other people are also doing. I'm really kind of a pioneer, doing this, taking the empath gift I've always had and just taking her seriously. That's really what I consider what I do. Is that I'm a super feeler. We have super tasters out there, that can taste wine and food and all these things. I'm a super feeler. And so, in developing my gift, that has opened up sight. I have the ability to also see, clairvoyancy, which is a gift in itself. But I am able to apply what I'm feeling, and then what I'm seeing is translating those feelings. So essentially, my success is reaching this point where I can take something that really it was very, abstract throughout my life, but giving it a course to run on to help people, which is ultimately I'm a intuitive energy interpreter. And yes, I think that's the best way to explain it. I'm an intuitive energy interpreter. So I can take anything, another soul, a fellow soul, human being, and help translate the energies around you, within you, about you, for greater self understanding. So, unlike astrology or human design, I can read your current energy and like what is happening in your life right now. And those will change over time as we learn and grow. But I feel that the soul signs that I see now, for your audience, if you're familiar with anything related to the concept of spirit animals, that we're halfway there. So basically, if I do a session with someone, I connect to their name and birth date to accurately touch into their energy. And then I'm shown two symbols, which is part of my acupuncture training, which teaches us that there is yin and yang within everything, and that we are always in a exercise of balance between, dark and light, shadow and the sunlight, or moon and the sun. So it's kind of always we're balancing these aspects within us, and they come with amazing gifts, talents, insights, but also challenges too. But they're here to orient us to always going up higher toward our higher selves. So I would say that I've really shifted my sense of what success is from an external point of view to a more internally driven and led point of view that has these like very small details about life that are simple, but feel like huge, huge aspects of success that I can, freely work with the energy when I'm strongest to read for my clients, not based on a 9 to 5 schedule, and things of that nature. So I hope that helps.
So beautiful. And I think what's so significant that I feel is that you tapped into that kindergarten heart.
Yeah, yeah, so true. Sometimes we don't have to over decorate ourselves like with degrees or trainings or certificates or chasing, I got out of the marketing and public relations world. I worked in agency side and then I worked in house for a video game company. And I was like, oh, I'm getting out of the rat race. And when I went to acupuncture school, and then suddenly we've got forms and exams and tests, and I mean, hoops to jump through, and government things and regulations and licensing to keep up, insurance. I mean, I thought I was leaving a rat race, but I just entered a different track, a different maze entirely. So it's funny because it's all really when you just go into your internal compass, whatever work you are in, and it doesn't matter. We are all needed in various professions and parts of this world that keep us going. So no judgment. I just mean that when I really oriented to my inner compass, then everything started to make sense and flow so much easier for myself. And happiness was just right at hand. It wasn't this thing I had to continually work for, is really what I'm trying to say. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. And I love that there's someone who is watching this and going, that's a thing.
Yeah.
Like the awareness of like, wait a second,
Yeah.
you stop in the maze of life and realize there might be a different way that you don't have to keep hitting that same wall that you're like, I know better. Well, to know better is to do better. And these tools that somebody could come around and say, okay, I see this and this is what's happening. And just like all these places and spaces and people over the years that we've trusted and they've been going on a outline form of this is how everybody is.
Yep.
Instead of, well, what if this gave you this and this gave you that? And you know what I mean? And then the difference of as a child, there's not this form.
Yes, exactly. It
They
is
have the
not.
absolute openness and creativity. And, when a child says what they say, they mean it. You know what I mean? Like sometimes it kind of hurts. Sometimes my son will say things and I'll be like, that, mm, there wasn't anything but truth.
Exactly. It's like just, yeah,
Yeah. You know,
precisely.
this is kind of funny. I'll share it because the stories and some people could relate to this or we had the opportunity to go up north in Michigan this past weekend. It was beautiful. Our friend has created a beautiful family business and fruits of his labor, being out on the lake and doing all these fun things, with the boat, with wakeboarding and surfing and tubing and all these things. Well, my son says, well, what are you going to do, Mom? The kid in me is like all of it. And then the other kid
Yeah.
in me is like, okay, which part will be easier? I never wakeboard. I never surfed. Like those were not available when I was young. It was skiing, slaloming, and then kneeboarding came out, and that was a whole nother face plant that I remember thinking, there's got to be a way to not make this hurt so bad because it's
Yeah, right,
fun,
right.
right? And so I was like, well, he goes, Mom, you can't inspire any possibilities without doing something. And I was like, oh, the
Ah,
company name is Inspired Possibilities. I was like, you stinker.
yeah,
I
just
mean, he got
so
right
much truth.
point. I was like, ah, dang. Like, if I ever had a thought that my company and business would be passed on, yeah,
We know who. Yes,
yeah.
that's
He
amazing.
did not have as much softness, or I need to work on his softness, but his delivery was perfect because it literally spoke to the kid in me that was like, you got this, no big deal. which is going to be more joyful? And so I did do the tubing. I do have a video. I did not hurt myself, which is, I was so proud. Like that was my biggest thing of
Yeah,
let's
it's all
not
about
make
avoiding
this,
pain.
let's not make this bad. Let's
Yeah.
make this the best possible. And I did have to call it early because of shocking of anything that hurt with my hands, like holding on.
Oh, the grip. Yeah,
Yep. And it was, and my
exactly.
husband's like, "Oh, the muscle you don't use." I'm like, "No, it was
Oh,
just that, like
totally.
it was a kung fu grip because I didn't want to like fly off, and because I knew that could hurt, and yet it was a nylon. It's not any. I don't, and also recognizing the work that I've chosen to do. Because back in the day, it was this. It was a kung fu grip to things like, "Oh, I'm there," instead of "You'll have more."
Yeah, so illustrative of like the actual muscles that we use between the two.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so I had to like tell my friend, cut it. Like no, I know my limits here, and if I can't hold on, there's no fun. There's no fun. It's over. And I didn't want to do that, but then I thought, you know what, it's better than nothing. And I was super proud, and I was like, next time, maybe I'll try one of those other two, but I would also have to learn a little bit more because it's something I hadn't even really seen it before. Like we don't live on a lake, we don't have a boat. Some of those things I'm just completely unfamiliar. And then I was like, oh, and there enters your perfectionist, like I want to know a little bit more to be more prepared. And so it was definitely that space of, recognizing that ability to know and understand what's in our hearts, and that what you had when you were younger was noticed so early.
Yes.
And that's what most people don't take the time to explore. And I believe if I'm understanding what you have and what you've created and the gift that you use with it, you give someone that insight.
Yes. I feel like when I'm working with someone, I call the system soul signs. So the work I'm doing is with soul signs, and it truly is, Maggie, about soul. It really is seeing one another at a soul level, which is so different than mind, right? What's your name? Where are you from? What do you do? That's all that mind aspect. Soul is seeing someone as a starfish, and the idea that they are a star at the bottom of the sea in the emotional realm, in the creative realm. These are people with huge potential to rise up and share their gifts with the world. Just one example. So you see, then that changes. Like suddenly we're in a totally different workable space. It's not therapy. I have many clients who say, "Oh my gosh, one session with Kirem is like years of therapy because of how clear we're able to get to the soul level, which is just somewhat honestly impossible when you're working on the psyche." So I just really relate to that, seeing someone in a whole new way, and then to have honored meditation and prayer and stayed within the sphere. Because honestly, Maggie, I didn't seek out to see spirit animals. I was just doing practicing and meditation that I was trained to do. And in meditation, you're not supposed to be distracted by anything. You're supposed to just focus on meditation. But I just started to see animals. Like they just kept coming into my view, where I'd look at the carpet and, like, how you see shapes in the clouds and such. It would just be like in the carpet, I would see like animals swirling around. And I was like, am I losing it? But somehow along the way, I find, after saying, like, I'm supposed to ignore this, that's what proper meditation is, blah, blah, blah. I finally surrendered to that and ultimately said, well, what are you here trying to tell me? And I started to ask questions, and they would move and they would start to show me their tails or feathers or flying or whatever they were doing. And then I was able to put together that these were actually messages. I was actually communicating in some way with another realm that was bringing wisdom in a whole new way. And it took some time to actually apply that in reality. But that's part of the game and part of the fun that life is, really, in the journey. But yeah, thank you, because I really do feel like I just see and feel others, but now have a language that's common that we all know a starfish, we all know a lion, we all know elephants and their wisdom and their ability to listen and hold space. So many elephants are wise, wise souls. So we can all kind of feel that, even just as human beings. It doesn't take biology or zoology to know those things. And then we have a new context with which to relate to one another. And I think, if anything, the system is helping to actually raise empathy on the planet, like to help others be more empathetic to others. Because when we realize, I use this example too, like all the time, and no dislike of sharks. Sharks have a purpose and they're amazing and inspiring in their own ways. But if a parent or a loved one is a shark and you're a child and in a relationship, they're not the most warm and fuzzy in your life. You can't expect a warm hug from a cold, focused shark on a
Timing.
mission. Yeah, you're going to get a lot more teeth and things that are harder to adjust to as a child. So, but I've set a lot of people free with just that one example of like your parent or this person in this important role in your life as a shark, and you're not going to get the warm affection that you need, as a bear, right? Like they are much more cuddly and able to be warm-hearted to their own young or to their people in their relationships that they have. So it just gives us grace to be able to say, I can accept that person as a shark. They showed me the shark face all the time. I'm a bear, a warm bear, and I need to have affection in my life, and I'm going to seek it with other warm-hearted people. And then we suddenly let go of a lot of those things. And it just is a different route to those conclusions that are actually like redirects, right, in our world, which I totally relate to and have come to realize our blessings. So
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. I agree. On Sunday, I'm not sure. No, I don't, yeah. I was just trying to think if I saw you on Sunday. The message was wild because it was exactly what you're talking about because it was, and what was wild was the guides met Saturday morning and the person teaching on Sunday, I didn't have her notes, I didn't have her presentation. And in the past, normally I kind of like those things.
yeah, sure.
And I've been working with Kate, so I was like, you know what? I trust. I know what she has is going to be great. Not always does it need to be a presentation, not always does it have to be this way. And
Yes.
I opened and I was like, okay, this is going to be great. And literally, she used the same words.
Wow.
And you did too. It talks
Wow.
about the test in which we incur. And then Lori was like, what if it wasn't a test and it was a lesson? What if it wasn't a lesson? And then Tamara said refinement. So what I
Amazing.
hear is the opportunity to take the situation and you refine it into a different vision so that you can see really what's happening. And if we understand as that we're all children within, like, like some of us are a little more childlike than others, good and bad, in the fun-like spirit and then also in the tantrum spirit, and all those different representations.
Yes.
And also in the infinity loop of what I teach, and I love to see it out through lived throughout you, which is it starts with belief. So you believe that you have a gift and you want to serve. You asked for support, encouragement, your husband, the surrounding, support system, and especially, having lost that
Yes.
huge part and you allowed for the healing to happen. And now you receive, and that receive part is the greatest next gift because now you believe for that experience and how it literally keeps motion. And so many times we block that receiving out of nothing more than fear.
Yeah, that's so true. Yes.
And that fear of knowing something more. And when the truth and what I've been really working on is the knowing and the doing. And when we know what we need to know about the situation, the clarity, and what sounds like you have developed that skill set and the willingness to see those signs, stories, explanations, connections, to be able to do more. And then that literally closes in that opportunity where somebody's harbored over here for a real, and in some of those situations, same thing, people will talk about therapy, and it's so much back, and spent so much in a book that is, a lot of us just want to close and be like, hey, can we just close that chapter? Like, not need to reread it again and again and again. What if it were for my benefit? And, so I love what you're doing. What would you say? Because you've already answered a number of my questions within. What would you say if you could give one piece of advice to women that are stepping into their power and striving for their best selves? What would that be?
Yeah, that is a really good question. I would say, and this is so the medicine is within the answer twofold a little bit. So I'll first say kind of the exact answer to your question to sum it up first, but then express how I got to it. Wholeness,
Mhm.
wholeness is where the power lies. And that is something that I had to really learn, especially during that year of stillness. Um, it required me, instead of holding up and being the space holder or the kind of like leader of this of a group or whatnot, to finally be held myself. And so that created an interesting change of energy as you were kind of showing this, and allow the receiving to happen. I had to step into receiving and finally see who my real friends were, who true friends really were, who were able to help me, to hold me, in some situations, defend me, like come to my aid, protection, things like of that nature. So I would say be sure to have your strong spiritual sisters or your healing team, and knowing who you need to seek out at the times where you're you need help, like you need to ask for help, and you need to receive for a change. And so I got really clear on who those people were and what kinds of things they could do to assist me, and let it in. It's like actually not just get into that quick tennis game of like, I'll get you back. No, just allow yourself to be held. Um, and you need to have people that are high vibration enough to see where you're heading, where your spirit is going. When one is in that leadership role, a lot of the times we're just the ones seeing across the bow, and there's not a lot of other people on the boat who can do that. And so it really needed to show me where I was actually colleagues or friends with people who could do the same for me. It's not always who you think. And I would say that stepping into your power is learning to be with other people who are as strong or stronger than you, to open up to mentorship, and not just be in a comfort zone of sort of being in a leadership role or whatever that might be for you. Um, and I think in the times that we're in, Maggie, coming through post pandemic into this new world, we're writing the map. I mean, I could possibly be the very first soul signs reader slash intuitive energy interpreter that you've had on. Very likely. That's a pretty good chance. And that's because there is no map essentially where we're going next. And so we've got to be able to see, into these new spaces, and to have people reflect back to you the beauty of who you already are, who you don't have to work harder to be, and to strengthen and shore up the resources of your wisdom and your gifts and your knowing, your intuition, on your own. So you've got to surround yourself with a really powerful group of wise mentors, friends, colleagues that you can trust. And I would say that's part of wholeness, because you need to see the whole picture, and you also need to be held and to also receive healing and help. And the second part of wholeness for me is being present. When we are scattered, we are not fully present, and we're not fully dealing with what's in front of us. And that can change on a dime. It can be a friendly audience, or it can be, a sketchy one. So it's kind of like being whole is where the power really lies, more than maybe, oh, I've got to externalize this as I'm always on social media every Monday and Thursday. I'm doing all these things
Air quotes.
And like you were talking about the difference between doing and sort of like a base note level of doing, which is a different energy, but you're still doing. So it is really honoring like the present moment, who's in front of you right now, who are the physical connections, people you can lunch with, people who are talking to you just at the grocery store, especially here in Nashville. We talk to each other all the time at the grocery store. So it's like maybe these opportunities are not as in the future disconnected from us as we think. So I always have to come back to a place of where I feel truly whole in order to feel that I'm actually stepping into a place of power and making that conscious versus just kind of doing the do to check it off and feel that we're doing it or think we're doing it. There is the difference. And I would say those are two very specific things that I have taken into my own life and live by as far as honoring my own power and staying in power for myself.
And that comes because you chose into that stillness.
Yes, thank you. It's true. I never would have really become so clear about what that was, or quite frankly, felt any sense of what true wholeness really is had I not done that. And I'm getting a very poetic way to say, as an acupuncturist, as a Chinese medical practitioner, wholeness is the goal and balance is ultimately the way to get there. So in living in the way I was doing the practice, perhaps, or the way the universe has sort of ordained it to be in our world, it's like I've had to live the medicine in such a deeper form than I could ever imagine. Like, oh, you want to be an the ancients would say this is like you're now learning how to do it without the needles. so we're going to put you through the journey and the tests of that, which is cool in a way. And like I said before, I had to accept this with some sort of graduation, which kind of blew my mind, but I've also been open to what that is. And when you read the texts of like ancient Chinese medical doctors and things they would do, they didn't have to have needles. They would write things down like messages on script, like scripts were basically meditations or mantras or things that you were to take in and sit with in order to shift energy. So there's a lot of mystery around what that was all about, but my it sounds like a really cool adventure book. Like I want to read this story and see where it's going.
You know what's so special? And this has come up a number of times. In something as serious as a script, right? Like the
Uh-huh.
doctor doesn't get the pen and the pad by accident. It didn't just happen, poof. There was hours and hours and reading and learning and application and lessons and back in the day it was all in person, right? So a
Yes.
totally different amount of presence. And that kind of script, if it was handed to you for meditation, prayer, um, mantra, statements, stretching, some of those things that are not of the script of nowadays.
Right.
Yet a pill, which is what sometimes people prefer or they think
Yeah.
is better, it's a practice of something daily.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm just like, as you're saying this, like the script, whether this one said 4 milligrams of blah or 2 minutes of stillness, there's still a practice because the pill is something you get into a practice or a habit of taking on the regular. Take one of these daily, take this twice a day, 12 hours apart. Do this twice a day, 12 hours apart. If you start the day in stillness and end the day in stillness, the result is meant to be greater.
Yeah, agreed. Exactly. I think that really is a cool breakdown of where we are in medicine in many ways. Like, and in the world, it's like medicine comes in many different forms. And we're now open more to what one might consider the divine feminine aspect, which is a subtler, not so, black and white rigid system like we've been under. And truly, if we had a balance between both systems, we would have flourishing health, in my opinion. So,
Oh my gosh.
yeah.
Yeah. Our friend this weekend, I said something like, "Do you have anything for my eyes? I'm not really sure." And I knew something deeper was going on. It was the things I didn't want to see.
Mhm,
I'd
mhm.
created something
Yes, yes.
really
Symptomology that was actually denoting a deeper thing to call attention to.
dis-ease
Uh-huh.
I was creating in myself, which might just be mind blowing to the person who's watching. Um, and recognizing the deeper we go, the deeper we learn. And he gave me, I just happened to say, do you have something? Forgetting that his mom has like, oh my gosh, I don't even know all the titles, but more of the Chinese medicine, the more herbal. And
Yeah.
I put it in my eye. Oh my God. It burned so bad that I was like, I want to slap you in the face. This hurts.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
are you sure this is okay? And he was like, I do it every day. And I was like, do I even want to know what that was? Him so much, right? And he's laying there and I'm like, it's burning. And I'm like, it's burning because it's working. And then I was like, is that apple cider vinegar?
Oh my gosh,
I
that's
could
hilarious,
I could
especially from
smell it. I could totally smell it, right? And I was like, did I just put apple cider vinegar in my eye? And he goes, well, there's a few other things in it. And I was like what? And he goes, I don't know. My mom just gave it to me.
Yeah, a lot of tinctures come through, like the tincture would be, yes, a base of vinegar, could be wine, could be oils or other things. So, so I actually am with you. You probably did put some apple cider vinegar, but with as a carrier to some herbal medicine in there. But yeah, the things we'll go through.
It was so beautiful. And I feel, and I know based on, there's been another time in my life, there was things I didn't want to see. And there, in fact, I ended up with some funky eye infection. And
Yeah,
I did do the script over here, the medicine
sure.
script, and I'll be darned if I didn't have it for an entire week. And by that afternoon, I was like, wow, I didn't realize how cloudy my eyes were because I now can see. And I came home and I made the tincture. And I was like, because it was honey, distilled water, and apple cider vinegar. And I was like, oh my gosh. And then I started reading on all the benefits.
Oh, wow.
It was beautiful. You know what I mean? Like it was so beautiful. And I was just like, how many times in life do we miss the opportunities because we don't ask more questions?
Yeah.
Who is it? How do I need to, find them? What's available? And so what you are creating, I think, is absolutely incredible. And it's from that greater, younger gift that was acknowledged. And I wouldn't be surprised if in the future we'll be able to see some of those, like, I don't want to say a test, but a way to say, oh my gosh, here's the endurance, and this is what it is. And it's in that stillness, it's in that calmness. So before we end today, is there anything else that you feel that someone that you want to share that's on your heart in the learning of what you have, grown through that you would like to pass on that you haven't already shared?
That is a really good question. Like another empath, I would say there's so many of us who are empathic. I don't think I'm unique as far as that ability. I feel that it's been misunderstood in many individuals. And I feel that a lot of moms who might be watching have very empathic kids. I feel the newer generations are really sensitive, are very, very sensitive to perceptions and perspectives on life and things. And you were sharing before we recorded about some of the things your son has said, and the truth bombs and like the fast awareness of truth. And that combined with sort of this healer quality of sensing energies in a room or wishing to influence them in a way to create more harmony is something that I think is natural in kids. We want everyone to get along. We know what a good day at school is like when we all have fun on the playground. So I would say for maybe in both directions, if you're a mom and parenting a sensitive child, to empower them. I would say I'm very lucky because my mom was also a healer. I'm a third generation healer. So there was a lot of room for me to express my empathy. Um, but if that's not traditionally in the background of a family, to learn about it, to explore about it, and to really tune into your child to learn about maybe let them speak, because I bet you there's more behind what they even express, and that there's a possibility they could really learn and grow from just feeling there's an opening to say things that there isn't normal conversation around. Because had I not had that empowerment to trust that childlike wisdom that you're so sweetly reflecting for me, I'm so able to see with you in this interview the opportunity, the interview. I'm seeing this deeper interview of truly being who I've always been from being a child. And I know that there's so many more. And even if you're one of those people who may be my age, older, younger, but an adult already, and you're experiencing a sense of knowing that you're meant to do things that are a little off the map, off the chart, off the track, to trust, because I sure have been there. And, have just been showing up and allowing the redirects, both gentle and firm, to guide me to this place of more peaceful, fun, flowy existence where I get to be myself and I don't have to set my alarm every day, because I just let myself wake at the time that is natural to me. I drink my tea, I have conversation with my husband, and then I go on upstairs and I start my Zoom meetings at the right time. That there is a success within our lives that isn't fully out of reach at all, and just comes online, I think, when we truly trust our inner voice to guide us there.
I couldn't agree more. And I think that that's what I'm seeing is the awakening of understanding that what is easy for some and hard for others, we can learn from those who it is ease, and the people that you can serve with your gift, and also lead those who have that inkling, like I have that feeling, and how to grow that. I think it is incredible. And when we talk about the past being perfect, understanding that willingness that you had for the education and the science,
Yes, good point. Yes, I
like that
really
was all
stuck it out.
science-based. Yeah. And there were a lot of tests, exams, and
Yeah.
forms, like just getting there. But then, like you said, for opening your doors. And that was why there was such a closure and grief for that physical place that represented opportunity and choice. But bigger than that, what I'm seeing is your heart and that service
Thank you.
and giving those options. And now you're giving others options that they get to see themselves differently.
Yes, and those in their who they have relationships with, which brings through so much more empathy and healing in the world today. I truly believe that.
Lots and lots of choice. And it's
Yes.
possible. I think that's what people miss is the opportunities for choice, and they feel like they're, nope, this is it. Well, actually, it's not. It's not at all. And you lend to that stillness, and yeah. And so now here you are in such a beautiful light. I'm so incredibly grateful that this aligned time-wise, and I get to share who you are, what you have, and what you're creating, and that space for others, because I know that it will be that what I've been seeing is like this lighthouse where you're like, hello, hello, here I am. You know what I mean? And especially like you said, in that storm, because you are physically moving in a storm. You know what I mean? It wasn't beautiful outside, so it was heavy like you felt. And it just, you know, yes. So thank you for your precious time. We'll make sure that with this video you have all the information to find Karim and all of her gifts, all of her links, all of her support systems and access, because that is the most beautiful gift that we have, is the choice to have a conversation and be better for that, and knowing that we are better together. And that's being alone and feeling miserable and frustrated and challenged is a choice, and it's not meant to be like that at all. So,
Thank you so much, Maggie.
I love